Hi everybody, this is JDavis86 from the Hearts of Iron 3 forums, and this is my first video AAR or Let's Play, and we're playing Hearts of Iron 3, the most recent beta version of 3.062, and as you can see we're playing August Storm, the modification for the game, and it's the most recent beta version of August Storm. Before we get started, I'd say I'm a more intermediate, maybe a little more advanced player, and I think this video is slightly geared towards those types of players, but I think newcomers can certainly get a lot out of learning how to play the game from this video, I hope, and I just hope it's fun to watch too. Like I said, we are playing August Storm, so if you're used to the vanilla Hearts of Iron 3, it is a lot different. It's more challenging in a good way, and I think it's just altogether more fun. If you haven't played the mod, I'd encourage you to watch the video, and I hope you can learn something about it and maybe go download it yourself, because it is a lot of fun. I'm also featuring a top-down production strategy in this game, and in part I wanted to do a video about it with August Storm because it's a bit of an experiment for me. It's not something I've tried in this way. There's another poster on the forum, I believe his username is pronounced Valentinen, who has done a couple awesome AARs, I think one on Germany's Order of Battle, that featured a top-down approach to producing units, and it involves a lot of planning, but it's way more efficient and really interesting to do. And the production laws and economic laws in August Storm are far less forgiving than they are in vanilla HOI 3. And that's why I thought it would be really awesome to combine August Storm with this production strategy. And I know spreadsheets is a scary word, but I will show my spreadsheet for production a little later in the video. Okay, with all that in mind, let's go ahead and get started here. Even though I haven't said it, I am going to play as the United Kingdom. We're going to build up quite an empire that's going to last up until the 1980s, which is when August Storm ends. It also adds some awesome events through the 1950s, and although truthfully, it's just thoroughly enjoyable playing this game through World War II, or this mod. I'm just going to go along and get us started and show how I set the country up in 1936. I won't feature a video on the whole year because frankly that's just really boring. I'll probably do a video on 1936 and 37, and certainly once things start ramping up in the war, we'll have some more detailed videos, because that's frankly when things get really interesting, even though the planning for these years are very important. I'm just going to quickly touch on some differences to August Storm for those of you that aren't familiar with it. There are a lot, and I'll probably forget about them and be reminded when certain things pop up. Just to start off, money, and by the way, I apologize for the label at the top of the screen up here. I didn't buy the full version of this video recorder. Maybe I will eventually. I hope it's not too much of a distraction. I'll let you know how our manpower is doing, diplomatic influence, you don't really need to see that. And you can see the money in more detail here when I scroll over it. But money is a far more important resource in August Storm than it is in vanilla HOI 3, as it should be, because the amount of cash available on hand to a world power greatly influences their ability to produce items and to project power. And the Allies, based on their civilian laws, benefit greatly from money. The big factor that it influences is your production, and I'll go over here and you can see there are strategic effects that become enabled based on the amount of cash you have on hand. And right now you see we have not a good effect. We have a very weak financial power that lowers our industrial capacity by 5%, leadership's affected, efficiency for production is affected. And you can see that this is because we have less than $1,000. The more money we gain, the better financial power effects become available. If they're passive, they happen automatically. It's awesome. And generally my strategy is to just keep stockpiling money. The United Kingdom, you don't really need to worry about it like you would playing somebody like Germany or Japan. As you can see, we have all these benefits to our income. British India, controlling Singapore, the Strait of Gibraltar and the Suez Canal, gold, all of these things increases the amount of money that we have, and certainly our civilian laws obviously help too. There are options. You can see we have an event over here where we can take out a loan of $1,000. Various loans become available to you as the game goes along, but I decline to take those loans out as the United Kingdom. You get a debt effect that's not necessary, even though it would remove this strategic effect that we have right now. We gain money so quickly as the United Kingdom that I just rather wait until we hit 1,000, and that'll go away, and we're not going to have any debt. As you know, especially if you live in America or pretty much anywhere these days, debt's not such a good thing. Okay, so that hits the money portion. Let's go ahead and talk about production. You know what? I'm going to wait to start the game, and then our August Storm has it lets you select an industrial focus for your nation, which is a really cool effect. And when you think about it, it's a very appropriate. It's very appropriate that a country would need to focus its efforts in a certain field of industry. Like Germany, for example, you may want. Germany really needs a lot of tanks and planes, and they might focus their industry towards air and armor. But it'll make more sense when that screen pops up. I just want to go over, and once again, I'm not going to do everything perfect. I don't claim to be a super expert on everything in this game, but I just love this mod so much that I just thought it'd be cool to do a video on it, and with hopefully a top-down production strategy that really will help us maximize the potential of the United Kingdom in preparation for possible war in 1939. The first thing I usually do here is I'm just bringing all of my units home. I send all of my land units to center, Midland in England here to just reorganize everything, because the order of battle is not so great as you can imagine. In most countries, the order of battle is not very practical. Starting out here, we have forces all across the empire that we want to bring home so that we can set them up in a better way. Let's see, I believe we have some transports. And you see over here we have a country called the Indian Empire, which is a puppet of ours instead of an actually part of the country. I think it's a better representation of the times. Of course, I believe the Indian Empire got dominion status, I think, in 1935, and became what was later known as I guess it was kind of known as the Commonwealth then. But sent some transports here to pick up some guys in Mombasa, however you pronounce it. But I'm just bringing everybody home, which is probably boring to watch, but that's okay because we're going to get everything set up nice and pretty. Okay, now that we got that going, I'll worry about our planes later. I'll get those going here. Let's talk a little about technology real quick. In August Storm, technologies take longer to research. There are more penalties for researching ahead. It's not as easy to just blitz certain techs and become very powerful at them. We're not going to research. Officers are also very important for combat efficiency, but we're not going to worry about building any officers right now because the laws that we have in effect aren't very good for training officers. I am going to set espionage to 5 at first and build up a lot of spies in Germany, but we'll hit that in a second. It's very important playing the United Kingdom or France to start increasing Germany's threat from the beginning, because those will make that high threat will make better economic laws available and conscription laws available to us. Some important texts to start researching from the get-go. Obviously, there's a dog barking outside my door. Hopefully you guys can't hear that, and if you do, don't get scared. I'm okay in here. Alright. Production and efficiency, very important. Those economic laws, those production laws, help us produce more units faster, which is very important. Rocket tests, yeah, I'm not an expert on this, but I don't think that's something that we need to invest in immediately as the United Kingdom. We have some other things that take priority. Okay, we got those. Just gonna go over here. Gonna go ahead and get these 1936 aircraft techs because we want to be building some planes in 1937. Bombers look good. Capital ships. We're going to be building more aircraft carriers, and our techs are far behind, so we want to get those started. Everybody has a different opinion on battleships, but for the United Kingdom, I think it's okay for us to build a couple battleships in addition to more aircraft carriers. Even though we start out with a massive battleship fleet, even though they are quite dated, they still can perform well when you know what you're doing. We get, researching these radar techs. The United Kingdom does start out with Radar 1, which is really nice because radar is going to be very important in protecting our convoys and detecting enemy ships and planes. I think it's a good idea to go ahead and start researching this from day one, even though you're highly penalized and it's very inefficient to do so. It's just so important for us to get these techs started and to start upgrading our massive fleet because it takes a long time to upgrade those radars on ships. I think it's super important to research small warship ASW, anti-submarine warfare. It's just, the convoy war is so important. We want to get these techs going so that we can upgrade our ships and be ready to go in 1939 to sink some subs. We're going to go ahead and get our cruiser techs going, destroyers, and just go ahead and I just researched 1938 anti-aircraft for these guys and 36. And once again, anti-aircraft is something that upgrades on all ships throughout the game. Normally, your ships won't upgrade certain things, although in August Storm, I think I'm not 100%, but I think you can upgrade main armaments on battleships in August Storm. I could be wrong, but I think that's accurate. But it certainly takes a long time. Our tank techs are so far behind here. We want to get that started. And I go ahead and I want to research mountain warfare and mountain troops because down the road we're going to be fighting in a lot of mountainous terrain, especially in Italy later on in the war. Engineers, we can go ahead and get it started, although I'm not sure that we're going to be fielding a lot of engineers. Land techs, of course, very important. First things first, we want to start researching the techs that enable us to get the special ones here: Grand Battle Plan, Combined Arms, Spearhead Doctrine. These take a long time to research, and we want to start doing so from day one. Additionally, you'll see operational level organization is very important because it reduces the time between attacks, which makes a huge difference. Our tank techs, like I said, are far behind. It's going to be a long time before the United Kingdom is fielding adequate tank armies, and even though it's going to be a long time before we are building them and using them, these techs take so long to research that I think we should start from day one getting them up there. As you can see, we already have 34 techs in here, which that's probably going to be good for 1936. And we're going to bring this espionage level down too. Another thing I want to quickly touch on that's different in August Storm, if you go over here to the Theory tab, we have Grand Land Offensive, Grand Air Offensive, Grand Air Naval Offensive, and these are special techs that you can research that enable an event that gives you a bonus in this combat area to the units. I don't remember exactly what the bonus is. Obviously there's a passive benefit, combat efficiency, when you research Grand Land Offensive, but this is designed, I believe, to simulate the preparation that is involved in planning a grand offensive. Example being Germany's invasion of France. You wouldn't just start the game and immediately invade. It takes a lot of preparation and planning, and when you research certain texts in these become available, and you research this and enable the event, that helps you perform better in combat. And I suppose the researching of those texts and knowing when to use them, that's a simulation of the preparation that it would take in planning an assault in a war. Okay, I think our texts are looking pretty good here. Naval texts obviously are super important for the United Kingdom. I think we'll be researching these ahead at some point, but I don't start out researching them because there are a lot of other important things that we need to get started. Air texts, obviously you don't want to neglect either, but you know, we'll kind of have to prioritize those when we can. You know, the United Kingdom pretty much needs everything, which is so difficult. So everything's not going to be perfect. We're not going to, you know, we just can't build everything and research everything like you'd want to. But we'll do our best here. The politics screen is going to look a lot different for the United Kingdom, or excuse me, for August Storm. You can see here that we just have 2 ministers that you can't change out manually. They're elected, well, not in the case of King George here, he's not elected, but Stanley Baldwin is, and you'll have the option to select different prime ministers when certain events happen. Obviously, poor King George is not going to last too long in 1936 here, and we'll have some king issues, but we'll deal with that when we get there. Instead of the ministers, we have a variety of different laws that we can change when they become available. I won't go into detail on all of them right now. I'll address them as they become available. One of the most important one really is economic laws, and right here you can see it's set to full civilian economy. Look at the negative effects it has on our production. Air, build, speed, land, armor, naval, a 50% hit. So it's going to take us 50% longer than it normally would to build these land units, and or any units whatsoever. And that's going to come into play when we talk about our production strategies for this year. Industrial policy laws, not great right now, but we don't have an option of changing it anyways. But you know what? It lowers our consumer goods, which I'm okay with right now, even though we take a hit to the efficiency. Okay, I think that's about all we want to talk about here right now. So we fit the politics. Okay, let's talk about our production. As you can see, the United Kingdom in August Storm starts out with a lot of ships already in the queue here, in the production queue. As we mentioned earlier, you know, we get a 50% hit to producing naval units right now in 1936. I don't think it's a good idea for us to continue producing these. I'm not going to cancel them out, but we'll finish the production of these units when it's more efficient to do so. And go ahead and set consumer goods here, supplies, reinforcement. Right now our goal for 1936 is about 30 industries set to production, which is not a lot at all. I'm keeping a little bit into upgrades here, which I don't know if it's the most efficient way to handle it, but I believe it does increase practicals in some field. Gosh, mechanical engineering maybe? One of these, I think, it increases our practical. I could be wrong. You know, we want to start upgrading some of the stuff from day one, just to kind of have it working. You know, I'm going to show you here the spreadsheet for my United Kingdom production plan and strategy for the year 1936, and this is all based off of a poster's name in HOI3. I think it's pronounced Valentinin. He did a couple great AARs, one on Germany's order of battle, and it was very, you know, some would call it micromanagement, but it really planned out an awesome strategy, and he knew exactly what he wanted to build and what he wanted to accomplish. I think a lot of people go into this game kind of knowing what they need, anticipate what they need a little bit. They might, oh, you know what, I don't have a lot of infantry, I need to build some more infantry, I need some more ships, okay, I guess I'll build some. But it's really not the most effective way to approach the game. And I'm not saying that I do this in every game I play, but for this one in particular, where the economic laws are much more severe and practicals are much more severe in August Storm, I thought it'd be really cool to see if really planning out some good production strategies for every year brings about a more powerful United Kingdom. So with that in mind, I think I'm going to pause the video here, and I'm going to show you guys the spreadsheet that I designed for this. And hey everybody, we're looking at our spreadsheet for the United Kingdom production for the year 1936. As I have probably mentioned before, I'm basing this off of Valentinen's Order of Battle for Germany AAR post, where he talked about top-down production and really planning out a solid production strategy based on your country's capabilities. It's a really tough year for the United Kingdom in 1936. We don't have a lot of industry available, and the economic laws available to us are really, really bad and penalize production, especially of military units. As you can see here, we have infantry, land units, ships, planes, industry-related builds, and convoys and escorts. And what happens here is we have the production cost for each of these possible units and how long it's going to take to build them, the production days. So if I wanted to build 3 brigades of infantry to make a division, I'd stick 3 in the build column here, and what happens is the production cost is multiplied by the production days and the amount we want to build to give us just under 2,700 IC days required. And then this column will be totaled up at the very bottom of the spreadsheet here to give us the total IC days required for the year 1936, and computed with the available IC we have committed to production right now, which is a very low 30. We need 88 days in game time to produce those 3 brigades of infantry. And as you can see, it's well within our budget of 360 days, and it would be possible for us to build those units in this given time frame. However, based on our current economic laws, I don't think we should build that. What I am going to suggest we build for 1936 are 3 factories, 4 radar stations, and go ahead and start some convoys out at 5. And you can see here that we need about 390 days to do this, which is over our budget, but I'm hoping that we'll get a little more IC available and we'll be able to pull this off. As you can see, it's a pretty paltry production scheme. It's not too ambitious at all, but it does lay a foundation, and it does build things that the United Kingdom needs to build that will not suffer any sort of penalty. So that's about it, and we'll get back to the game. And as I talked about looking at the production sheet, we're going to go ahead and build 3 factories. You know, the practicals are different in August Storm, and it's a lot harder to build industry. And this is, I think this is very ambitious to build 3 factories in 1936 for the United Kingdom. But as far as I know, building 3 factories at one time is the minimum amount of industry that you can build that won't let your construction practical lower in a given year. Anytime I've built less than 3, my construction practical goes down, regardless of the bonus the building this industry will give. I hope that makes sense. For those of you that don't know, construction practical is the industry practical that governs how expensive and how quickly you build industry. And obviously, the more you build something, the practicals go up, and it reduces the cost of building it in the future. But the United Kingdom does not have a lot of industry. Our financial gains and will help our industry quite a bit as the game goes along, but I think laying down a firm foundation in industry from day one helps us a lot too. And keep in mind that these are what we're going to build here are items that the United Kingdom needs no matter what, but we're not penalized for building it in the year 1936 like we are so many other units. And it's, you know, it's important to build certain units early on because you want their practicals, the practical to go up to lower the cost. But like I think this is an okay way to do it for the United Kingdom because we're not going to get a lot done anyways in 1936. So if we get those 3 factories out, I'm going to go ahead and start putting some radar stations down in Dover and Penzance, the famous Pirates of Penzance. And radar is super important for the United Kingdom. It helps us detect submarines and enemy ships, and it helps better protect our convoys. Go ahead and put one down in Scapa Flow. We're going to be building so many radar stations all across the Empire, but we're just going to get a firm foundation right now. Let's see. Go ahead and stick one in Portsmouth as well. All right. So we've talked about industry, technology, politics. I may have missed intelligence. What I like to do, I go ahead and set to support ruling party. Just, the conservatives don't really have a lot to worry about, but we'll just get them started and switch it over to potentially raise national unity or counter espionage. The benefit to raising national unity right now or in the future is that it will enable us to get heavy industry emphasis later in the war. You know what, and just looking at that, 92, it's so high, it's probably a good idea for us to start raising our national unity early on. Yeah, it's debatable. I mean, we get the bonus to IC efficiency, supply throughput, but we lose the daily descent change. We lose 1.5% bonus to consumer goods during wartime. I guess that's debatable. Depending, I'd be interested to see what people think about that. But right now, we don't need to worry about that because it's not a decision we can make. Generally, what I do is I go through our intelligence screen, and I'll set priority to 0 for all these unimportant countries. Belgium, they're not a huge threat right now. We don't need to worry about them. Czechoslovakia, sorry for them. They won't be around long. I'm actually going to set priority to 0 on everybody except Germany. We're going to want 10 spies in Japan and Italy and Soviet Union later on, but not right now. We're going to build those up later. It's not important that we don't need them immediately. However, we do want to start increasing. As soon as we get 10 spies in Germany, we're going to start increasing their threat because we want to get those economic laws. We want to lower our neutrality and get better economic laws. United States, not so important. Okay. Pretty standard stuff, not too exciting. Soviet Union, Romania. Sorry guys, you're not special to me. I'm sure you are to somebody. No offense to any Romanians out there. And we want to get this up. And we're also going to start building some convoys because you know what? We got to build a lot of them. For some reason, the Germans want to sink them. I'm like, what's up, dude? Come on, leave my convoys alone. But industry's priority number 1. Radar stations we want to start, and the convoys will start up too. Okay, looking nice, looking pretty good, pretty good. All right, we got our ships heading home. We got our troops lining up for sort of reorganization. There are going to be a lot of pop-ups when I start the game. I'll try to explain some of them as we go along. One of the first ones you're going to see, I see everybody starting special forces, which is another thing I didn't mention. But in August Storm, your special forces are what happens every time you research a year of special forces. An event will come available. You can see it, established special forces, and the event provides you a special forces brigade, which is what it sounds like. It's a special unit that has benefits in all sorts of terrain, and you want to use them wisely and in good situations. And we'll use our special forces to the best of our ability. The United Kingdom, yeah, we're going to need some cool special forces. Okay, I hope that sort of tells you a little bit about that, and let's go ahead and start the game up here. I'm not going to record, like I said, through all 1936, but I want to kind of get us started and show you guys what I do in setting up the United Kingdom for awesomeness. We're going to wait for our industrial focus window to pop up, and I will explain a little bit more about that. Everybody's taking out loans, establishing forces. These pop-ups may look annoying, but there are just a ton of pop-ups in the beginning of the game. They don't happen like this all the time. Our events right now are national decisions. I've been calling them events, excuse me. We're not going to take out our loan. We're going to establish our special forces, which I can do right now. And I can show you what I was talking about in the benefits. So you can see we got a brigade of them down here. And yeah, so look at all these awesome benefits that they get. It's pretty cool. I like using them especially in urban areas because they get so many urban bonuses. So sticking them with a good defensive general and a good defensive army can really slow down some Germans and some big towns, which is pretty cool. Got an offer from France. I'm surprised that they need these rare minerals. They usually don't, but sure, we will send France some rare minerals. I think that they'll end up canceling that deal, but they probably just haven't kicked in their resources yet because France usually starts out with enough rare minerals. Once all these guys get over here, I start disbanding. Well, not Home Command. Home Command, you can go back to London. Oh, there's our industrial window. Send Home Command back to London. I'm going to pause the game, and I'm going to talk about this window real quick because this is an awesome August Storm feature. As you can see, what happens is you're choosing a military industrial focus for the next 2.5 years. So whatever we choose here is going to be going until mid-1938, where this window will pop up again, and we'll be able to pick a different industrial focus. Just to scroll over one here, focus on air naval, and you can see it'll give you certain benefits to certain units, but it'll also penalize you when building other types of units. It's tough as the United Kingdom because, frankly, we need a little bit of everything. We need a good land army, we need a good navy, which obviously is the most important, but we need a good air force as well. Air force, becomes more important as the game goes on, but we certainly obviously need a strong navy. Focusing on naval is an option, but I don't really like doing that as the United Kingdom because you can see we get a 10% hit to land and armor, a 5% increase to air build speed. I don't know, aside from the naval units already in the queue right now, we're really not going to be building a lot of ships after 1938. We certainly will be building some, but we're going to slow down our naval production to focus on air and getting ready for the Battle of France. If I was playing as Germany, I would certainly pick focus on air armored. You get air armor build speed and air build speed. Land's debatable, but look at those hits you get to everything else. I don't know of anybody who would need to focus on just air, of any country. I don't think it's that great of a choice. Focus on increasing capacities, more penalties for building units. You get a resource. I think that's probably a good choice for a small country who's interested in just increasing capacities. I don't think it's a good choice for the United Kingdom because we're going to start building stuff before June 1938. 37 to 38, we're going to start building units. Focus on all might be a good option later down the road for us because especially once the war begins, we're going to be building all sorts of things. And if we don't want a negative hit to anything in particular, we can select focus on all. Although right now I'm going to go ahead and start with focus on air naval because we're going to start building some ships and some planes in 37 and 38, and we're going to want a little help building them. So that's awesome. It's the land build speed and army build speed negative effect sucks, but you know what? We're just going to do it anyways. Military industry focus happened to us. Another pop-up that you're going to see a lot once we start accumulating some money, August Storm gives you the ability to build strategic resources with surplus cash. I don't know a lot about this because I usually decline the options. Things like, automotive factories, ball bearing complexes, all that stuff that sounds pretty good, and certainly I would like to use them as the United Kingdom, although I just haven't quite figured out how it works correctly. I've tried selecting events in the past to build like an automotive facility, for example, and it seems to cancel out a strategic resource we already have, and I wasn't able to pick which strategic resource I wanted to give up. It obviously sucks if we pick to build something and it replaces our dockyard facilities as the United Kingdom. That's no good. So, you may be able to find more information about that on the forum, but generally I'm not going to be building any special strategic resources because, frankly, we have everything we need aside from maybe an automotive factory, which will, I believe we get that effect when the United States comes in the war. And we want to be stockpiling our money because I welcome the awesome strategic effects we get from having a lot of cash on hand. And as the war begins and that slows down, our income slows down, I just kind of let it keep going because I believe there are good effects all the way up to 24,000. Alright, and as I was saying earlier, I just go through here and I start disbanding these HQs. We're going to be creating them again, but it's just easiest to just, get rid of them, and then we're going to reorganize our infantry into corps. The United Kingdom starts with a pretty tiny little army here. I believe the Kaiser was quoted in saying before World War I, what would you do if, I don't know the exact quote, it's something like, what would you do if the British Army landed in northern Germany? And he'd said he'd call the constable and have him arrested, which is pretty funny. But you know what? We're going to make Germany fear our little army here. Now right now I'm thinking like in 1942, down the road. Okay. And it's probably not super interesting to watch me do this, but I generally go for, a full corps, 5 divisions. I'll talk a little bit more about my deployment strategies and what my goals are. Oh crap, we're losing Awesome, so already we're getting a little bit more industry than we wanted to, or than we anticipated. So I'm probably going to be moving, we're probably going to have more than 30 IC set to production. Potentially, I may just commit it to upgrades actually. Cool. Alright, and as we get ships, I don't think, I could talk about it in this video. We'll see, I probably won't talk about it in this video, but I'll certainly go into good detail on how I set my fleets up and deploy them in a way that maximizes the defense of our sea lanes and protects our convoys. That is priority number 1 for the United Kingdom in this game. You've got to protect those convoys. We have a massive empire. It's at the biggest size the British Empire ever was at this point in 1936, I believe. And we got a lot of stuff to protect. And, playing this game as the United Kingdom is a defensive game. We control a huge chunk of the world already, and we want to hold on to it. Possibly expand it a little bit, but generally we're playing a defensive game here, which I think is a lot of fun. And okay, let's see. I don't think it's going to be too interesting for you guys to watch much more of 1936. I don't think it's that interesting to watch, better laws become available. So we got 5 spies in Germany. We're going to start increasing threat there eventually. I want to get 10 spies first though. Alright, I think everything looks good. This is a very poor way to handle your industry. I usually set like prioritize production or one of them, but since we kind of want to split things up a little bit here, we're just gonna have to do it manually. I think we want to make sure our supply's looking okay. As you can see, 30 IC isn't even doing the whole queue right now, but these items are supposed to get done in the year 1936. And once it, industry takes longer than a year to build, which is a little deceptive or deceiving looking at our preparation chart for our production strategy. But once again, that was just based on 1936, and some of it's going to roll over, which is okay. Alright guys, I think I'm going to start wrapping this video up here a little bit. When I come back, we'll talk a little bit more. I'll just kind of get you up to date on where the game is, and then talk about deployment strategies, where I'm going to defend and why, preparations for France. There are a lot of good options for the United Kingdom. That's one of the difficulties in a way, because there are so many different things you can do to screw with Germany. I've played games before where it was super hard and really a logistical nightmare, but I've defended Poland. I think I had about 4 corps of infantry in Poland, and I held Danzig, and then I worked my way and took, I'm not going to pronounce it right, but Königsberg. My German ain't too good. Which was pretty cool, and it slowed Germany down a little bit. It required me getting military access from Sweden, and then quickly occupying Copenhagen when Germany declares war, because we want to keep the Baltic open. We don't want those guys stuck over there. That would suck a lot. Okay, but we're not going to do that this game. August Storm it kind of sucks. It's an actual event for Denmark. Like, they'll declare war, and then Denmark immediately surrenders because they're wusses. I don't know if that's such a great thing or not, but it happens in August Storm. Okay, so enough rambling. I'm going to pause the video here, and we're going to come back probably in 1937 and talk about organizing our forces. See you guys next time.